serving all corners of York.
From the ooze to the farce.
94.8 Jorvik Radio.
Hi there, it's Nick Love from Jorvik Radio's Love in the Morning, and I'd like to welcome you to another exclusive broadcast on Jorvik Radio in the History Misbehaves series. History Misbehaves is a series of audio dramas, artistic creations and interviews inspired by the archive and local history collections relating to York. The first local area chosen for the series was Town Hall last year, and the latest instalment is all about Acomb, as told by Acomb residents themselves. But before we hear Time Travel Radio, let's hear from the creative team who've brought this to air. An award-winning writer for TV, radio and film called Paul Birch, and a top director who's worked at the National Theatre and on Radio 4 called Kate Valentine, who I spoke to earlier this week. So we started the History Misbehaves with Town Hall stories. And for people who haven't listened to this, could you give us an idea of what History Misbehaves concept is?
Yeah, it's kind of honouring history and being naughty with it at the same time. So using the amazing archives that we have in the city to uncover kind of York stories and York past, and then find ways of creating interesting creative work with local residents in those areas to retell those stories and to play with those stories. And we've done that in a series of audio drama and comedies to creatively engage with the past, yeah.
And the thing about it is there's been a huge community response. You must have been really delighted with regards to not just the participation, but also the feedback afterwards as well.
Absolutely. We have had listening sessions with people who've been involved, and the smiles on people's faces definitely make it worthwhile. And we've had some in the most recent one we've just done in Acomb. We had some lovely responses. People wrote afterwards who'd been involved, like, as an older person living alone and having been through some difficult years, I was moved and warmed by the fun and kindness in everything we did. So that's
transforming lives then, in other words.
Yeah, and also respecting places that people might not have thought, oh, that's an interesting place. So we had another person saying it was wonderful to hear how much love other people had for Acomb.
We started History Misbehaves with Town Hall. What made you choose Acomb next then?
I think, well, the library, York Explore, want to work with all the different libraries over the course of the city. So it's kind of just really joyous to go into those different communities. And as we discover through those archives and through that work, that actually those fashions of what is a fashionable area and what isn't changes over the time. There's a lot of jokes in the new one about where the line between Acomb, Holgate and Foxwood is, for example. So the communities shift over the course of history, and that's a really lovely way to kind of experience that and play with that.
With regards to format, how do you decide that approach as well? Because Time Travel Radio, bit of a departure from, obviously, the Town Hall format, but brilliant nevertheless.
We want to respond to the artists that we've got in the room and also the material itself, and figure out what would be the most creative way of responding to these participants and this material. So one size doesn't fit all. We don't want it to fit all. And when Kate and I were looking at the archival records, we realised there was a huge strand of comedy within the Manorial Records within the 1980s Herald magazine. So that inspired a playful approach to this one and to really find comedic ways to retell history.
Because when you go back, there is a rich seam, isn't there, to actually mine of things which unwittingly were comedic.
Yeah. I mean, too much to put in, Kate.
Lots of pigs.
Lots of pigs.
But the minutiae, actually, you grow it and it turns into something special, doesn't it?
Yeah, and not just special with the result, which we hope people find very funny. We certainly did. But also the process is really fun and delightful. And those quotes that Kate said just now, there was a lot of joy in the room. So it's the process as well as the product.
And Kate, you've worked at the very highest levels in both theatre and broadcasting, the likes of the National Theatre, BBC Radio 4. What draws you to projects like this? What are the challenges?
What draws me is working with people like Paul. We've worked before we started these two last projects on radio drama, so it's really nice to, we know we work well together, so that was a big benefit. And I love history, always have done. And so I like to explore either voices that haven't been heard before or imagine voices where we haven't got written history, because obviously there's a lot of other history that didn't get into the books. And I then really enjoy co-creating with the community and seeing how they can imagine those characters and stories and bring them to life. And from the first nervous workshop where they're like, oh, this isn't for me and I'm not an actor, through to the absolute joy when they hear, once we've edited it and put the sound effects and the soundscape and the kind of the world together, and they can't believe that they've created it and it is them performing it.
I was thinking of the parallels and also the differences, because you've worked with some of the cream of acting talent. What was it like working with the volunteers?
Well, I think we try and make it as normal an experience as possible. So we don't start in a studio. We start in the library, in one of the rooms that we've got, and we look at all the material, and then we work improvisation. Obviously, Paul's improvisation expert and comedy expert. So this one, we really enjoyed sharing our favourite comic moments on TV. Lots of chats about Monty Python and Del Boy and all sorts of kind of revealing moments and waiting for that point where the line drops and you get what the sketch is all about. But I think there is quite a lot of technique to acting for audio drama. So I do have to hold people's hands in that process, you know, where the microphone should be in relation to your mouth, not rustling your script, not moving. There's quite a lot to think about. So yeah, we do a lot in edit. We give people several times to do it and then we put it all together. But I think the passion and the enthusiasm probably tops professional actors who are coming in, that's their job. So, you know, as ever in a lot of things where people volunteer, they're going to give you a lot more of themselves, their soul, their time, their laughter, than if you're just coming in and out for the afternoon.
And I can second all to what you've said, because I've watched you working at first hand, recording with these people, and it's a mixture really of really giving them some tight direction, but on the other hand, allowing them to sort of express themselves and bring their true dynamics through, I suppose. Yeah,
I would say so. Thank you. I think I love to bring out the best in people. In fact, I prefer it to having to choose from any actor who's available. I think that's possibly where I am best as a director, is bringing out, being given a group of people who have chosen to be there.
Yeah.
So it's not quite the same as if you're in, you know, year 8 drama class. But if you are working with people who are giving up their evening for you and for the project, you're already halfway there.
And it's very rewarding seeing people grow and actually flourish.
Absolutely. No, we've had, I think our youngest participant was 15 and our oldest is probably close to 80. Real range of people, which is great for a project like this, because obviously mostly you think of volunteers being of older generations who've got time to give. But no, we've had a really lovely range of voices involved.
Fantastic. Now, with regards to this project, I love the idea, first of all, of obviously breaking down barriers with these workshops and improv, and also talking about comedy. When you take a project like this, from concept to rehearsal to recording to broadcast, how long does that take? It's quite a while, I would have thought.
It's strange, because I think you plan and you create, and that was over 6-7 months, and that includes researching the archive, what is in there, what could we do, and there's such a wealth of material there. The answer is you could do 43 things, you know, and you have to choose one, and you plan not knowing who the participants are. So when you meet the participants, you go, okay, well, maybe we readjust slightly what we're doing. So the planning doesn't happen just before. The planning also happens in a responsive way throughout. So, going back to what Kate was saying about working with the participants, I think one piece of feedback that we had from one of the participants was, this wasn't what I expected. And I would say, yeah, it's not quite what we expected either, in a brilliant way. So you're planning, but you're discovering what it is as you go as well. So that's a kind of wonderful thing.
Echoing what Kate says as well about the art of recording for radio. Writing for radio must be very different from TV. In other words, audio rather than visual.
Well, as you will hear, there are some extraordinary moments in this comedy, this historical comedy, which we'd need a much bigger budget if we were writing for the stage or for film or for television. And one of the inspirations, one of the comedic inspirations, and this is a very old school reference, is the Goons. And you can get incredibly surreal, and you can do things in this medium that you just can't do very easily, or as well, even if you've got the budget, as audio. So I really love it. And I also really love that audio permits actors to be cast in roles that they wouldn't necessarily be cast at if you can see them. And that's a very liberating thing, that actually part of the joy of creating work with the community in this way is they get to be kind of whoever they want, and nothing's in the way of that. And that's a gorgeous thing too.
The one thing that you're both right about is that radio is a very individual thing. We find that with our listeners. They have a mind's eye and they interpret it the way they wish. Everybody has an individual relationship with radio. So when they're listening and they're, I guess, envisaging the characters, everyone will have a different view of who they are and what they are.
Yeah, I think so. And so, the audience, I mean, the literal audience, the listeners, are co-creating the drama. They are painting the pictures in their head. But I'd also say it's a very intimate thing, and I just want to shout out to Atomic 80s on this station that I listen to every Sunday night, and it feels really fun to be back in the room, you know, with Anna and Chris as they do that show. And I think that this audio comedy will stick in people's heads in a brilliant way, and I love that. I love that ability of audio. It's extraordinary.
A quick shout out, of course, to the funding as well, because without it, we wouldn't be listening to what we're going to listen to, are we?
Yeah, we're hugely grateful at a time that funding is really, really difficult. So this is commissioned by, obviously, Explore York and Archives, but it's supported by the Arts Council to promote artistic experiences and support artists and communities. And that sounds like a lot of words, but it is true. Like, it is supporting community, it is enriching people's lives through artistic experiences, and it is enabling artists like Kate, myself, Tom Smith, the sound designer, to really pursue our craft and share the joy of it. So we're hugely grateful to all of those people for making it happen, making it possible.
And you're right, it is a craft. It's such a lazy and easy thing to cut when people are looking at funding cuts. And yet you enrich the nation, and more importantly, you inform and you educate. And for me, that's important as well. You know, we're a duller society if we don't have the arts, aren't we?
Yeah, and at the moment, particularly radio drama is being cut horribly. I mean, that's where I used to work. And it's really slashed it down. And it's such a shame because actually, apart from stations like your own, there aren't that many that can do this or certainly can't commission it themselves. So we're finding ways to go around that. So by using funding from the Arts Council, for example, but then to place the product, I suppose, in different, you know, alternative transmission spaces, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also people can listen again, which is lovely, which they never used to be able to.
No.
You know, I'd make plays for Radio 4, they go out and apparently a few million people listen to them, but you'd never hear them again.
No,
So
no, asynchronous listening, I think they call it. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter when you listen as long as you do, and that's the thing about it. Now, I don't know whether we're going to get an exclusive or not, but do you have the next History Misbehaves in mind?
We do have it in mind, and more than in mind, it will happen, and it's going to happen in Clifton. So if you're a resident of Clifton and you want to make a thing with us, then York Explore Libraries and Archives is the place to go to, and we will announce that kind of in a few months' time as to how that's going to work. What that is, we haven't opened the doors to the Magic Archive yet, so we're going to find out what's lurking in Clifton's past and discover that and then go from there. But we will make something for everyone's ears with a group of no doubt extraordinary people in Clifton, and we can't wait.
That's a very visual thing, the doors to the Magic Archive.
Yeah. I mean, please go to York Explore, go upstairs. They're actually glass doors, and then some records are kept, I believe, in an old salt mine somewhere else that can be brought to you by the
Winsford, I think it is.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Perfect conditions for storing.
All I can picture in my mind is something that is like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom without the carts. But yeah, there's all this hidden history and very skilled people like Chris and Julianne at the archive who know it and can bring it out and can bring it into those glass-fronted doors, the Magic Archive in the centre. Go. It is extraordinary. It's open for you to go. You just have to ask at the desk and they'll book an appointment, and you don't need to have ever done it before. It is amazing.
And places like that and the Borthwick Institute, they're just such a wonderful resource, and, you know, you're holding hands with history.
Yeah, you are, and it's more fun than Netflix, and I like Netflix.
It's been a pleasure, both of you. Thanks for your time, and more importantly, thanks for creating this.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Paul Birch and Kate Valentine talking to us earlier this week. So, let's hear it. It's the latest in the History Misbehaves series, Time Travel Radio.
Welcome to Time Travel Radio, taking you from the 1680s to the 1980s. Real sounds, real people, out of time and out of sorts, and out.
Bringing you the very best in Acomb's news. Time Travel Radio.
Oh, I did see her by the river, oh, a swineherd was her dearie-o.
Well, I think Acomb for me is about the people, to be honest. Yeah, good people. Yeah, nice people.
Hi, Mike the Toastmaster here. Book me for your special day and I'll make sure it runs as smoothly as possible. I'll keep in touch with the best man to know what he has planned. I'll keep the banter flowing, the drinks flowing, and make sure that very special couple, the bride and groom, have a day they'll never forget. For all the right reasons, not the bad ones. Book Mike the Toastmaster and absolutely nothing very bad will happen on your wedding day. Mike the Toastmaster, serving up romance in Acomb for over 10 years. Mike the Toastmaster for your special day. Mike the Toastmaster has the right words for every occasion except divorce.
And I remember Acomb picture framers on Green Lane, which had a Mona Lisa in the window, and she looked really sad, which wasn't very inspiring.
And the other thing I wanted to say was about Front Street and all these cars. There's always these cars everywhere and they're blocking the trees. It changes the look of the whole street, you know, when the cars are parked there. And well, I'm on the side of the trees, you see. So I wanted to say something instead of actually doing something. I was hoping someone else would do something because I had said something, and that way the something I had said would make a real difference to the trees. And the other thing I wanted
Special offers at Pauline's Hair Salon, Beckfield Lane. Unisex perms, textured care £15.50, now only £12.50 with blow dry and set. Shaggy perm only £10. Wash and leave for a limited period.
Well, it was about 10 years ago, and I'd been in Acomb just a few weeks, and I was in a small room in Acomb Library, huddled together with a whole lot of strangers, and we'd all answered an ad for a new Acomb community choir, and now we're all good friends because we've been in the choir ever since.
Now, you know me. I'm not a one for gossip. I do not wish to talk foul of anybody. But I did have a wedding about a month ago. Robert and Joan Ploughman, and oh, they did have a passion for each other, and they did set all of Acomb aflame, they were so hot for one another. 'Twas like Judgment Day to see 'em all in each other's arms, and 'twas a wonder they lasted till the priest joined them. I was there, in the church, to see 'em, and I'm not a one to gossip, as you know, but I did see Elspeth Gill put an eye on Robert, for some say, not I, but others say, she was sweet on Robert. And I did see her look upon him in that church, and I did see her other eye looking at Joan with a fury. She was cross-eyed with love and hate at them both. And I don't like to say it, but Robert's own eyes do wander themselves, for he always had too many eyes and too many hands, that one. Always his hands and eyes wandering. As I say, I don't wish to talk foul of anybody, and my prayers are for them that they would be in eternal bliss. Give it a 9 month, though, and she'll be arms deep in children, and he'll be on the arm of another. I won't say I told you so, and as I say, I wish them nothing but happiness.
Acomb was agog this week when 2 schoolgirls found more than £1,500 hidden in the village graveyard. Shirley Precious of Woodley Avenue, aged 12, was making a den with a friend in St Stephen's churchyard when she found a battered travelling bag under a piece of corrugated iron.
When we looked inside, we saw big bundles of notes. I was terrified, and my friend was crying because we thought someone was waiting for us to take the money.
The girls got hold of one handle each and ran with the bag to Acomb Police Station. There was no one at the station, so they telephoned...
York Police Headquarters? Is this a joke? I don't want anything to do with it if it is. Wait there. We'll send a car.
When the police arrived, they found 1,500 in notes and some fruit machine tokens. The girls were given a receipt for the money and told by police
there might be a reward.
But a month passed and no one got in touch. They were eventually informed,
Thanks, girls. The money has been claimed.
We reached out for comment from the Precious family, and Shirley's mother Maxine said,
Well, it makes you wonder whether honesty does pay.
Hello, it's the Very Reverend Paul St. Paul here on Time Travel Radio, bringing you my Voice from the Heaven show. Yes, it's me, speaking to God so you don't have to. You know, there's nothing that makes me happier than climbing into my pulpit at Acomb Parish Church and spreading my words around a bit. And today, I'd like to talk about arguments. Some parishioners say to me, Reverend Paul St. Paul, you are very young and handsome for a vicar. And I like to reply, I'm not going to argue with you. As disagreements sadly cause unpleasantness, I make it a rule never to argue with my flock. I'm sure you remember when I, in my last career as an actor, played Hunk number 2 in Series 1, Episode 4 of Bergerac. You'll recall that my character argued with John Nettles quite severely, leading to blood being spilt on Charlie Hungerford's lawn. But that is television, and this is real life. As a minister, having now found my true calling, I refuse to spill blood on people's lawns. Some parishioners do disagree with me, and I have to put them straight. Instead of arguing, I simply remind them they are, in fact, wrong, without disagreement or unpleasantness. So, when you face an argument, my godly advice is to simply agree with your opponent by pointing out their error, using a raised voice if you must, and reminding them, with love, that they are an idiot for believing such things. In this way, you never argue, and you can sleep soundly in your vicarage, knowing you are always in the right.
I do remember there was a greengrocer which sold all the usual stuff, but also a huge range of, what shall I say, dodgy food which had probably fallen off the back of a lorry. It was very cheap, so it was a very popular shop. I still miss it.
Now then, Michael the bailiff here. I do make the day of this court run as smooth as possible. I do keep all in touch with the magistrate and keep order flowing. I do remind folk that all servants and labourers are ordered not to play bowls and cards during proceedings.
Can we get on with this? I would like to have my supper before midnight.
Yes, your worship.
Now bring William Henryson to the court.
Calling William Henryson.
Aye.
Step forward, please. Are you William Henryson, Cordwainer?
You know I am. I sold you the shoes you are standing in, did I not?
Oh, you did, and actually the heels do chafe a little. I was wondering, do you do free alterations?
Answer the question.
I am he.
Then, William Henryson, I am fining you for recovering 2 cows from the common pinder with force.
How else was I supposed to get them?
Force against cows is not permitted.
What was I supposed to use? Flattery?
You were overly forceful.
Well, seeing as how I was going to turn them into shoes, I didn't think they would mind. I had to be forceful.
By all accounts, you were too forceful.
How?
You used arms.
Cows are dangerous. I needed weapons.
A cannon?
Better to be safe.
But they were not your cows, and the cannon was pointed at Ellen Wrightson.
Calling Ellen Wrightson to the stand.
He did. I was afeard. He did point a cannon at me and he did steal my cows from me. And the other thing I wanted to say was...
Be fair. I did offer her a nice discount on a lovely pair of clogs for her pains, your worship.
Is this true, Ellen? Did he offer you a nicely discounted clog?
He did.
Then I think that's more than fair. He is a man. And as Acomb's primary shoe merchant, he has to get his leather from somewhere. And as a woman, your legal rights are questionable at best. I therefore rule in William's favour.
But...
Nevertheless, using arms to steal cows is not something which this court condones. William, you are henceforth forbidden to use munitions to steal livestock, and you shall make a reasonably priced shoe for the woman in recompense for the animals you have stolen. Right, supper time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and speaking of animal carcasses, I tripped over a corpse this morning. I'd like to remind the residents of Acomb and Holgate not to leave their dead pigs lying on the ground, but to bury them within the hour.
Actually, Your Honour, it's more the people of Holgate that do that.
The people of Holgate? Well, that doesn't surprise me. Court adjourned.
I remember back in the day the manager of the Regent Cinema in Acomb was called
Eric Harker.
Eric was always very smart. He wore a DJ and a bow tie, and it was old-fashioned, and I was more interested in Acomb Video Centre, film hire, VHS. That was BC. I like to think of things as before children and after children. Before children, the video centre. It was the best thing. It was VHS, not even Betamax. You thought it was going to last forever, that it was never going to change.
Acomb astrologer Rosina Parker here, looking at your stars for the month ahead. Taurus. Romance and flirtations will fill up your leisure hours this month. And as work should be fairly routine, you will have plenty of time to give over to enjoyment. Quite soon, you will meet someone who is witty and charming. But hang on to your heart, because it could get badly dented.
So I have a particular memory. It's a Christmassy memory. 1 year at the Gateway Church, which is the old school in Acomb, all the local churches had got together and created what they called the Bethlehem Bazaar. So they'd recreated a Bethlehem market, and there was all these stalls, and you could get tokens to spend on all the different stalls, and it was brilliant for kids and really great to see all these people come together in active participation. It was a real sense of community.
Bringing ye the very best in Acomb's news. Time Travel Radio.
Who's this?
Evening, Squire. Might I trouble you for some shelter on this cold and dark night?
Oh, what is that smell?
If it please you, I could offer you some stale cheese. Might I stay with your lordship?
Pah! I'm not a lord. And you need a special permit to stay in Acomb, and I'll wager you ain't got one.
A permit?
It's the law of this borough, and I will not let you in without one. Signed by the authorities, of course.
Oh, you mean this?
Aha, now, this is a permit.
Yes.
Signed and dated this year and month.
Yes.
Signed by the justices of the parish of...
Yes.
Holgate.
Might I come in?
Ah, my dear man, this is the parish of Acomb. We don't take in Holgate folk round here. Wrong permit.
What's all this, Jeremiah?
Someone asking for shelter, Mistress Kemp.
Yes, on a cold night such as this.
Look at this.
This is an Holgate permit. You do know that this vagrant cannot stay in our parish with that permit. You want to get your charity down Holgate where you do.
That's a Holgate permit, see? This is Acomb. You can't stay here. It's the wrong area.
That's no matter. No. Now he needs to get a permit to apply for a permit.
What?
What's this, Kemp?
Oh, you heard me. He needs a permit for a permit.
But I've got another permit, signed by the magistrate. Look.
Let's have a read of it. It says here you've applied for a permit to get you the permit.
Yes. In the year of our Lord, 1680, to be allowed to stay in...
timber frame houses?
But mine's a stone house, Mistress Kemp.
Wood or stone makes no difference to me. I just need a roof over my head for the night, please.
Mine's a timber frame. I mean, I could take him in. He'd have to sleep with dog in kitchen. I'll not give gossips what they're wanting. He can sleep on slabs, but I'll give him a bed and a hot supper.
Oh, that would be a miracle. I thank God for you, mistress, and I thank God for the kindness of Acomb.
Trouble is, by the sound of that cock, it's morning now, so this permit no longer applies.
Yep, Jeremiah's right. You need to get yourself a new permit. You'll be wanting a day permit.
I'm really excited. I've just seen this brand new thing. It's a scented dog lavatory. It's fantastic. It does everything. It means you can train the dog so it can poop in the corner, so it doesn't do it all over the house like it has been doing. It smells of lemons. You don't have to buy any potpourri anymore. It's scented. It's the modern world. It's brilliant.
Now, you know me, I'm not a one for gossip. But have you heard about that Isabel Cook? Apparently, the Lords have agreed to have all her lands committed to that Roger Scadlock. He's getting all of her rents. It's been said that he's been telling the Lord that she's not in her right mind, not able to conduct her affairs properly. Poor Isabel. She does like the drink, and ever since her husband died, I've been a bit worried about her, really. And that Roger Scadlock, he's a wrong 'un. He's always been after those lands. And speaking of Roger Scadlock, did you know that his pigs...
Acomb astrologer Rosina Parker here, looking at your stars for the month ahead. Gemini. Oh, Geminians, you will find it difficult to hide your true feelings. But that won't be a bad thing, as people sometimes find you a bit unemotional and fail to understand you.
Garland Funeral Directors, or as I like to say, my business is dying. Little Undertaker humour there. It's a two-person game. My secretary, Barbara, she does all the work, but I'm the man with the vision. How did I get into the funeral trade? It's a funny story, really. My brother, Rupert, the golden boy of the family, became a lawyer, don't you know, and so I was the black sheep. My father told me once I wouldn't succeed in life, so I moved into death. I mean, what better way to feel good about yourself, knowing that your clients are in worse shape than you are? And, what's more, I proved my family wrong. I'm very qualified, don't you know? I have letters after my name. MBIE, DIP, FD, NB, IFE, LMNOP, HMRC. My secretary, Barbara, has some letters after her name too, when she went to uni or some such. But I had them removed, as there was no more room on the letterhead. She was put out, but I've got a strong countenance where nothing affects me, not even her request for fairness. Like I say to my bereaved clients, this is no time for tears. Come on, it's 1986, the modern era, and time for us all to man up. Even Barbara. So, when you check out Garland Funerals and get the 3 letters you all deserve. R.I.P.
Margaret Gibbons is on the stand.
Now, Margaret Gibbons, I have here that you were disturbing the peace.
Peas, my lord.
Peas?
Disturbing the peas, not the peace. She has a rogue pig and he ate Elizabeth Metcalfe's peas on Clifton Acre.
A rogue pig, eh? What have you to say for yourself, Margaret? Too ashamed to talk, eh? And I see you also fail to maintain your fences and hedges. Not looking after a fence is an offence. What say you to that? I will take your silence as an admission of guilt, and I shall also fine you 2 shillings for your ignorance. I order you to speak to this court.
Your worship, she is deceased.
Dead?
Dead.
The accused is dead?
She passed some months ago, which is why the pig went rogue.
That's no excuse. If you, Margaret Gibbons, cannot keep your pigs under control, you must pay the price. The law is the law.
It is, your worship.
I know that when I am dead, I certainly intend to keep a nice hedge. What do you say to that, Margaret? You see how she flaunts herself. She's not even looking at me.
Her eyes are shut.
Well, open them, man.
Having a bit of trouble. She's a bit stiff.
She's resisting. I'll not have it. Margaret Gibbons, I am therefore fining you for being dead, and I'm sending you to the stocks where you shall reside until you come to your senses.
That might take a while, your worship.
Now somebody get that rascally pig in here. I want a word with it.
Walk into the Britannia Inn on Acomb Green, and you could walk into a Rottweiler.
Taurus? Oh, Taurus, you will find yourself more canine than bovine this week, when dogged determination is needed to get you through a problem with authority.
Robert Spacey?
I am.
I believe you have a dog.
I do.
I am the Sheriff of Acomb.
I know who ye be.
Is that the dog?
Well, it ain't a duck, is it? Down. Get down there. Down.
The dog is unlawful.
What?
You are in possession of an unlawful animal.
Unlawful?
It's an illegal breed.
Why? What's it done? Committed adultery?
It's not a greyhound.
No, it ain't. And nor am I. You're going to lock me up?
I am therefore placing it under arrest as it is unlawful. As the law clearly states, no inhabitant of Acomb or Holgate to keep any unlawful dogs except greyhounds or hunting dogs.
Let me get this straight. Its crime is that it isn't a greyhound.
Unless you go hunting with it. Do you go hunting with it?
With this? I'd sooner catch a deer with a salmon. This one's soft as they come.
It's also pregnant. I can tell by its belly.
It is.
Pregnancy, the biggest crime of all. No inhabitant of Acomb or Holgate to keep any unlawful dogs except greyhounds or hunting dogs. They are not to keep in their houses any breeding dogs.
Sorry, Dorcas, you've been found out.
I am therefore placing you under arrest for the possession of a pregnant animal who is not a greyhound and unable to catch a deer.
If only I lived in Foxwood. They don't mind that sort of thing over there.
How do I look? That's what I ask myself every night before I leave the house. I'm the manager. I have to look right. The outfit helps, the DJ, the white shirt, the bow tie, the black polished shoes. I use Bill cream in my hair as well, nothing like it. Sometimes I spread a bit on the shoes for extra shine, an old trick my mother taught me. Got a little shiny badge too, Eric Harker, manager. I get there and I get the usual from Sandra, all in a gabble.
Sorry, Mr. K. Mum's been poorly. You know, she usually comes round my house to mind our Dennis. Well, she wasn't up to it tonight, so I had to take Dennis to Mum's and settle him down, then come back home and get my uniform on ready for coming here. I'll just go and get my tray.
And off she goes. Sandra! I call after her, but she's gone. Bang! Vanished through the swing doors at the back of the auditorium. Billy, my projectionist, gives me the thumbs up, which means the lights are going down. And they do. And we're in the dark, the deep darkness. That's the bit I love, if I'm honest. It's dark and it's quiet, just for a few moments. Then the scratch of matches and tiny flames scattered around as half the audience light up. The smell of tobacco, the creaking of seats as they settle down. They'll like the film tonight. Rebecca, it's called. About this woman who marries a rich man with a mysterious past. Rebecca was his former wife, and no one seems to know what happened to her. And there's a scary housekeeper called Mrs. Danvers, and she'd put the fear of God into anyone. People think I don't watch the films, but I do. I love the old Hollywood movies, the romantic, glamorous ones. In my opinion, that's what films should be. But he's trying to keep everything going. Not as many people are coming to the cinema. It's been a bit of an uphill struggle. When I've got my dinner jacket and my bow tie, everyone knows who I am. That I'm the manager. But I know the cinema won't last forever. Nothing lasts forever.
So as a kid, I spent a lot of time playing with my mates at Acomb Green. But that was before they decided to do it all safety for kids and took away the 2 climbing frames, 2 roundabouts, they took away the seesaw horse thing, and then they took away the slide, which was ridiculous because it was an amazing slide. And then they put all these bits of wood and logs around it, which I think was really silly because that made it worse, because if you fell off, you clock your head on there, and that's not safe, is it really? So, yeah, that's mad.
Time Travel Radio, taking you from the 1680s to the 1980s. Real sounds, real people.
Bringing you the very best in Acomb's news throughout the centuries. Time Travel Radio.
And I do love the trees on Front Street, changing with the seasons, always beautiful, and the birds. I never used to like the cars at all cluttering up the street and all the fumes. But the fact is, now my son Malcolm has bought himself a nice little Ford Cortina, he can hardly find a place to park. Too many cars in the way of my son's car. It's handy for him to park near the house, and for me too with my hip. And today his car was surrounded by other people's cars. I gave them a right piece of my mind. And the other thing I wanted to say was that down the road a bit...
Acorn Meat Products, Front Street. Fresh farm chickens, no giblets. 80 pence.
Oh, you can speak your mind, Isabel. You can trust me, for I'm not one to gossip, as you know.
Well, I've been fined threepence for scolding my husband.
You haven't?
I have. And not just my husband, but other folks as well. It's outrageous. I gave them a right piece of my mind.
You scolded them?
I did. Give them a right good tongue lashing, which they deserved. But then they had the cheek to find me a shilling more for giving them a good tongue lashing.
Never.
My husband, who don't wake up till noon, by which time I've got 3 kids running about and a baby that wants feeding, and I'm doing all the work. He comes in asking for food. Food? I've no time to give him food. So I give him an earful instead. Then he tells folk I'm scolding him. So they all scold me, and then they get fined. And then them are all mad with me for getting scolded, and so they gives me a double good telling off.
So what did you do, Isabel?
I fined them twice over for scolding me. Paid off all my debts.
I'd like to talk to you about our fabulous range of knitwear. Here at Mimosa Exclusive Knitwear, our yarns are quite superior. They've been woven by a different process, and to top it off, we have satin motifs. You can send in your own design and be the envy of Acomb and make your jumper jump out. Don't be like the neighbours. Be yourself at Mimosa Knitwear. This unique offer is exclusive to all York residents. You will never own a jumper quite like...
Farm news now. Perhaps you've driven into the country during the early spring weekends to see the frolicking lambs. And don't they look sweet when the sun shines, the grass is fresh and green and the fleeces are snowy white? Well, in Farmer Joan Black's experience, it's another matter altogether.
The pity of it all is that all lambs grow into gormless sheep. And in my experience, sheep have only one ambition in life, and that is to die. All shepherds recognise that their main function is to prevent a series of woolly-minded suicide bids. Often lambs are a big problem. Once you've persuaded them to suck from a bottle, their gratitude and loyalty know no bounds. In fact, they become positively cloying and a social embarrassment.
I'm telling you, you can't see the trees for all the pigs running riot. They need to find them before them pigs eat all them trees. The bark is ruined, and all 'cause some folk don't ring their pigs by the given date.
I have the accused pigs in the dock. Too many to count. A backlog of hogs, so to speak. One of you is clearly in breach of the peace by eating Elizabeth Metcalfe's peas. Now own up, which one of you disturbed the peas?
One of you needs to squeal on the real culprit.
Leave this to me, bailiff. I'll get to the bottom of this. Now, if you lot are too pig-headed to see sense, then you'll be for the chop. Come on, we're all waiting. Own up before you bore us all senseless. Right, not one of you is willing to own up. You swines, bring in the shoeman with his cannon.
Bring in the cordwainer.
You told me I wasn't to use my cannon.
That was cows. It's perfectly legitimate to blow up a pig. Light the fuse, if you please.
Light the fuse.
Oh, you changed your minds now. Well, it's too late for that. As you sow, so shall you reap.
That pony's criminal.
Find that woman for scolding.
These pigs get what they deserve, eating all the trees.
We at Garland Funerals are happy to bury the pigs, my lord. I'll pop them in with Margaret Gibbons and I'll get Barbara to send you an invoice.
I've lit the fuse.
I'm a Capricorn, so I didn't see this coming.
You see, you pigs? This is what happens when you cause trouble in Acomb.
Excuse, I just wondered where I could get a permit to get myself a permit.
Well, I don't like to be the one to gossip, but I'm not even sure Lizzie Metcalfe had any peas in the first place.
Would you like me to say the last rites? In a handsome voice.
Ready? Aim!
Time Travel Radio is part of the History Misbehaves series of dramas and comedies using archival material to creatively engage with the past. It was created and inspired by York Archives using Acomb Manorial Records and back issues of the Acomb Herald magazine. It was researched, devised, written and performed by Dorrie Brown, Holly Beer, Heather Carter, Ged Cooper, Sam Fawcett, Laurie Furnell, Jenny Hall, Phil Pollard, Noah Taylor and Ian Wood. Head writer and script editing by Paul Birch. Sound design by Tom Smith. Research advisor Chris Cassidy. Production assistant Holly Beer. Time Travel Radio is directed by Kate Valentine and is a co-production by Digital Drama, Riding Lights Theatre Company and York Explore Libraries and Archives.